The twin suns were setting behind the thick alien trees, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and violet. Liam adjusted the strap of his heavy backpack and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He had been exploring the wild regions of planet Viralia for 2 days now, charting maps for the first human colony that was planned here. His boots crunched over the dry leaves and colorful moss as he looked for a good place to set up camp before nightfall. As he stepped into a clearing, something caught his eye. A figure lying motionless under a large tree with twisted silver branches. At first he thought it was just an odd rock or a piece of broken equipment, but as he moved closer, his heart jumped. It was a woman, or at least, she looked like one. She was young, with pale, bluish skin that shimmered softly under the twin lights of the setting suns. Her hair was silver white and small, delicate ears peeked out from under her tangled locks. She wore simple, torn clothing and her body was curled up tightly, as if she had collapsed from exhaustion or injury. Without thinking twice, Liam dropped his backpack and rushed over to her side. "Hey, can you hear me?" he said loudly, his voice full of concern. He gently touched her shoulder and she stirred slightly, letting out a weak sound that barely reached his ears. Her skin felt warm, almost too warm, and her breathing was shallow. Liam quickly grabbed his water canteen and carefully poured a few drops onto her dry lips. She flinched at first, but then accepted the water, drinking slowly with trembling hands. Her eyes opened halfway, revealing brilliant violet irises, but she didn't seem fully awake. She whispered something in a language he couldn't understand and then fainted again. "This isn't good," Liam muttered. He glanced around the clearing nervously. It was almost dark and the alien jungle was no place to be caught unprepared. Strange noises echoed through the trees, chirps, growls, distant howls. Whatever lived out there might not be friendly. He worked quickly, pulling out a portable shelter from his pack. It popped open with a soft hiss, creating a small protective dome. He gently lifted the alien woman, she was surprisingly light, and carried her inside. He wrapped a thermal blanket around her and placed a small portable heater nearby to keep her warm. Sitting beside her, Liam stared at her sleeping face, wondering what had happened. Was she a native of this world? Or maybe a lost traveler like himself? He noticed some scratches on her arms and legs, but nothing serious. There was no visible wound or sign of poison. Still, she looked fragile, like a flower struggling to survive, in the middle of a storm. He reached into his bag and pulled out a scanner. It was a basic medical device, capable of reading vital signs even from non-human species. The scanner beeped softly and displayed her readings. Elevated temperature, rapid heartbeat, and fluctuating energy levels. Liam frowned. These weren't signs of a normal illness, but they also weren't signs of dying. It was something else. He sat back, thinking hard. His mission manual had a section about alien encounters. The instructions were clear: offer aid, avoid harm, and wait for further communication. Simple enough, but right now waiting felt dangerous. As the night fell, the sounds outside grew louder. Somewhere far off, a deep roar rumbled through the trees, followed by the cracking of branches. Liam grabbed his stun rifle and placed it within arm's reach. He knew he had to stay alert, not just for himself, but for the alien girl who now depended on him. Hours passed. The fire outside crackled softly. The woman shifted in her sleep, murmuring words Liam still couldn't understand. Sometimes she reached out blindly, as if searching for something, or someone. Every time, Liam gently took her hand until she calmed down again. Despite the fear in the back of his mind, Liam felt a strange sense of responsibility growing inside him. He had no idea who she was or why she was here, but leaving her alone had never been an option. He was human, and humans didn't abandon those in need. At some point, just before dawn, she stirred again. This time, her eyes opened fully. She looked directly at Liam with a dazed expression. Slowly, she reached out and touched his chest, right over his heart. A soft, almost musical sound left her lips, a single word that seemed important even if he couldn't understand it. Then she closed her eyes once more, but this time she didn't look as weak. She looked peaceful. Liam stayed awake the rest of the night guarding her, thinking about what he had gotten himself into. He didn't know it yet, but this strange meeting would change the course of his life forever, and soon he would discover that helping her had triggered something far deeper, something that went beyond kindness, something tied to instincts and ancient bonds he had never heard of before. Something called the mating season. The first rays of morning light slipped through the thin walls of the shelter. Liam stretched his tired arms and rubbed his eyes. He hadn't slept all night, staying awake to keep an eye on the strange alien woman lying beside him. She was still asleep, but her breathing was easier now. Her face, once tense with pain, looked calm and peaceful. Liam carefully scanned her again with the small medical device. Her temperature was still high but steady. Her heartbeat was strong and her energy levels were no longer swinging wildly. It seemed she was recovering, but something still didn't feel right. There was an invisible tension in the air, like standing on the edge of a cliff and not knowing when the ground would give way. After checking that she was comfortable, Liam unzipped the shelter and stepped outside. The jungle was waking up. Strange, colorful birds with 4 wings flew overhead, chirping melodies that sounded almost like singing. Strange flowers opened their large petals, releasing sweet scents into the air. It was beautiful, but Liam didn't lower his guard. He had read enough about Virelia to know that beauty often hid danger. As he gathered dry branches to build a small fire, he heard a low rustling sound. He turned quickly, stun rifle in hand, but saw nothing, only thick ferns swaying in the gentle breeze. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. He returned to the shelter, adding a few pieces of wood to the heater to keep it running. The alien woman shifted again, her hand reaching out as if searching. Without thinking, Liam gently took her hand. She gripped it tightly, as if afraid he would disappear. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. She stared at Liam, her violet eyes wide and full of emotion. She tried to speak, her voice soft and musical, but the words were in her language and he couldn't understand. She frowned, frustrated, and weakly tapped her chest with her free hand, then pointed at him. Liam smiled gently. "It's okay. I'm here to help you," he said in a calm voice, hoping she could at least understand his kindness. The alien woman smiled faintly and closed her eyes again, holding his hand even tighter. Hours passed. Liam worked around the camp, always checking back to make sure she was safe. But the feeling of unease only grew stronger. The scanner started picking up strange readings. Multiple life forms nearby, moving through the trees, circling closer. Liam adjusted the settings, trying to get a better read. The creatures were large, bigger than him, and fast. They seemed to be avoiding direct contact for now, but Liam knew it was only a matter of time before they decided to strike. He crouched by the shelter and checked his rifle. It was fully charged, but against a whole group of predators it might not be enough. He needed a plan. Fast. As he thought, the alien woman stirred again. This time she sat up slowly, still clinging to his hand. Her face was pale, but her eyes were alert. She spoke again, this time in a broken mixture of her language and a few simple English words. "Hunt. Danger, come," she whispered. Liam's heart raced. She knew. She could sense the predators coming just like he could. Maybe even better than he could. He tightened his grip on the rifle and looked at her. "Can you walk?" he asked, making simple walking gestures with his hands. She nodded weakly but struggled to stand. Liam quickly supported her, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him heavily, her body trembling with effort. "We need to move," Liam said, scanning the area. Staying in the shelter would only make them sitting targets. He needed to get her to higher ground, maybe find a cave or rocky area where they could defend themselves better. As they stepped out of the shelter, a loud roar echoed through the jungle. Liam's blood turned cold. Through the trees, he caught a glimpse of a massive creature, something like a cross between a wolf and a bear, covered in dark scales instead of fur. Its eyes glowed faintly, locked onto their position. The alien woman whimpered, softly gripping Liam's shirt tightly. "Hang on," Liam said, lifting her into his arms. She was so light it felt like carrying a child. He ran as fast as he could, weaving through the thick trees, jumping over fallen logs, and ducking under hanging vines. Behind them, the roars grew louder. The predators were chasing them now, drawn by the scent of their prey. Liam's heart pounded as he sprinted toward a rocky hill he had spotted earlier. If he could make it there, maybe he could find a defensible spot to hold them off. The alien woman buried her face against his chest, her hands gripping him like he was her only lifeline. In that moment, Liam realized something important. She trusted him completely, and he would not let her down. No matter what dangers waited ahead, he would protect her. He didn't know it yet, but this bond between them was not just about survival. It was something much deeper, something ancient. And soon the true reason behind her strange behavior would begin to reveal itself. Liam's muscles burned as he climbed the rocky hill, carrying the alien woman in his arms. The ground was rough and uneven, but he didn't slow down. Behind them, the roars of the creatures echoed louder, shaking the very trees. Every step felt harder, but Liam's determination was stronger than the pain in his legs. Finally, he reached a small overhang near the top of the hill. It wasn't much, but it would give them some cover. He quickly set the alien woman down against the stone wall and pointed his rifle toward the jungle below. The creatures appeared, huge, dark, and snarling. Their long limbs and sharp claws dug into the ground as they sniffed the air, searching for their prey. Liam counted at least 4 of them, too many for a fair fight. He took a deep breath and fired a warning shot into the ground. The energy blast sizzled against the soil, making the creatures flinch. For a moment they hesitated, growling and pacing back and forth. Liam used the time to check the alien woman. She was awake, watching him with wide, fearful eyes. Her hand reached out, gripping the edge of his jacket. "It's okay. I won't let them hurt you," Liam said firmly, even though fear twisted inside him. The creatures roared again and charged up the hill. Liam fired carefully, aiming for the ground near their feet to drive them back without starting a full battle. The blasts slowed them down, but they kept coming, relentless and hungry. Just when Liam thought they would be overwhelmed, a strange thing happened. The alien woman's body suddenly glowed softly, not brightly but enough to catch Liam's attention. He turned and saw her sitting upright, her eyes glowing with a soft violet light. She placed her hands on the rocky ground, and a low hum filled the air. The predators stopped immediately. They whimpered and backed away, confused and afraid. One by one, they retreated into the jungle, disappearing into the thick trees. Liam stared in amazement. What had just happened? The woman slowly lowered her hands and leaned back, breathing heavily. The soft glow around her faded away, and her body slumped with exhaustion. Liam rushed to her side. "What did you do?" he asked, even though he didn't expect an answer. The woman opened her eyes slowly and gave him a small, tired smile. "Safe now," she whispered. He helped her sit more comfortably against the rock. He checked her temperature again with his hand. Still warm, but more stable. Her breathing was steady too. "You saved us," Liam said softly, filled with respect. She nodded weakly, as if it had been the only choice she had. Liam realized there was more to her than he had first thought. She wasn't just a helpless being, needing protection. She had her own strength, different from his but powerful in its own way. As the danger faded, Liam set up a small camp under the rocky overhang. He started a small fire, using his emergency supplies to cook a simple meal. The alien woman watched him closely, her violet eyes full of curiosity. When he offered her some of the food, she hesitated at first, then accepted it with careful hands. She ate slowly, like someone tasting real food for the first time in days. After eating, she seemed stronger. She sat beside him, still close but less shaky. She tried to speak again, forming slow words. "Name you?" she asked, pointing at him. "Liam," he answered, smiling. He tapped his chest, repeating, "Liam." She nodded seriously, as if memorizing it forever. Then she placed her hand on her own chest and said, "Aaron." Liam repeated her name softly. "Aaron." She smiled brightly, a small moment of happiness between them in the middle of the wild jungle. As the night fell again, Liam and Aaron sat quietly by the fire. She seemed fascinated by everything he did, how he built the fire, how he checked the scanner, even how he arranged the sleeping mats. It was like watching a curious child, but there was a deep intelligence behind her eyes. At one point, as he stretched out to rest, Aaron quietly crawled over and settled beside him. She didn't say anything, but her body leaned against his lightly, seeking comfort and warmth. Liam didn't move away. He understood. After everything that had happened, the fear, the danger, the exhaustion, she needed to feel safe. And somehow he realized he needed it too. He looked up at the starry sky and wondered what strange bond was forming between them. He had come to Virilia expecting to explore a new planet. Instead, he had found something far more mysterious, a connection he couldn't explain. And somewhere deep inside, Liam knew this was only the beginning. Soon, he would understand that the instincts driving Aaron were ancient, powerful, and unstoppable. The next morning, Liam woke up early. The fire had turned to soft ashes, and a cool mist covered the rocky hill. Aaron was still asleep beside him, breathing peacefully. Her head rested lightly on his arm, and her hand was clutching his jacket tightly, as if she didn't want to. "Let him go." Liam smiled softly and gently moved away, making sure not to wake her. He stood up and stretched, feeling the stiffness in his back. The scanner had beeped a few times during the night, warning of distant movement, but no real threats had come close. He decided to check the area just in case. As he walked around the hill, Liam found something unusual hidden behind a large boulder, a strange alien device. It looked like a communication beacon, but it was damaged and covered in dirt. Curious, Liam wiped it clean and tried to activate. The small screen flickered to life, showing strange symbols. Luckily, Liam had a basic translator installed on his wrist computer. He connected the translator to the beacon and waited as it slowly processed the alien language. After a few minutes, words in simple English appeared on the small screen. Warning: life cycle active. Caution during bonding season. Assistance required if separated from mate. Liam stared at the message, confused at first. Life cycle? Bonding season? Mate? What was this talking about? He dug deeper into the beacon's files, finding a short recording. A voice, soft and musical like Aaron's, explained, "During bonding season, females of our species enter a vulnerable state. They instinctively seek a protector, forming a deep bond with the first male who shows kindness. Separation during this time may cause distress or danger to the female. Please assist with care and respect." Liam took a step back, the full meaning sinking in. Aaron wasn't sick. She wasn't just weak. She was going through something natural for her people, a biological cycle. And by helping her, by giving her water and shelter, Liam had accidentally triggered a bond. To Aaron, he wasn't just a rescuer, he was her chosen protector, her partner. Liam's mind raced. He had no intention of hurting her or misleading her, but this situation was far more serious than he had realized. She wasn't just clinging to him out of fear. She truly believed they were connected now, not by words or promises, but by instinct and nature itself. He returned to the camp slowly, his heart heavy with new understanding. Aaron was awake when he got back, sitting cross-legged near the fire. She smiled warmly when she saw him, her whole face lighting up. She reached out, touching his hand gently, as if making sure he was still real. Liam sat down beside her and tried to explain, even though he wasn't sure if she would understand all the words. "Aaron, I found something. About your people, about the bond." She tilted her head, listening carefully. "You're in a special time, a cycle. You bond with someone who helps you, right?" Aaron's cheeks turned a deeper shade of blue, a blush spreading across her soft skin. She looked down shyly but nodded. Liam took a deep breath. I didn't know, I didn't mean to. But I'll do my best to protect you, I promise. Erin looked up at him, her eyes shining with emotion. Slowly, she placed her forehead against his, a gesture of trust, maybe even a tradition from her people. Liam closed his eyes for a moment, accepting it with respect. He knew he couldn't walk away from her now. She had trusted him with everything she had, without even speaking the same language. That kind of trust was rare, even among humans. The day passed quietly. Erin stayed close to Liam, following him like a shadow. She helped him gather food, carrying small bundles of fruit and herbs in her arms. She showed surprising cleverness, pointing out which plants were safe to eat and which ones to avoid. Liam found himself smiling more around her. Despite the dangers they faced, despite the confusion, Erin's presence made everything feel a little less lonely. As the sun began to set again, painting the sky in soft pink and gold, Liam built another fire. Erin sat beside him, her head resting lightly on his shoulder. He stared into the flames, thinking about everything that had happened. He had come to Virelia expecting to survey land and collect samples. Instead, he had found a bond stronger than anything he had ever known. A bond he never planned for but now couldn't imagine breaking. And deep down, Liam knew their journey was far from over. Stronger trials were waiting for them. And together they would face them, as partners, as protectors, and maybe something even more. The days that followed tested Liam in ways he had never expected. Erin's bond to him only grew stronger. Wherever Liam went, Erin followed, silently, patiently, like a shadow. She stayed close when he gathered supplies. She copied his actions when he cleaned the shelter. Even when he sat down to plan their next move, she would sit beside him, watching him with quiet trust. At first, Liam found it endearing. Her loyalty was pure and simple. She smiled at his jokes, even if she didn't always understand the words. She tried to help, sometimes clumsily, sometimes skillfully, depending on the task. But soon Liam began to notice other changes. Erin was growing more protective of him. Every time he wandered too far from her, she would grow restless, pacing or calling out softly. If he spoke to the radio or handled equipment she didn't understand, she would stand between him and the machine, as if shielding him from danger. At first, Liam thought it was just part of the bonding instinct, but it was more than that. It was as if she could feel when he was anxious or unsure, and she reacted without hesitation, ready to defend him against anything. One afternoon, while Liam was trying to repair the damaged beacon, a loud noise startled them both. A wild animal, a large lizard-like beast, stumbled into their camp, sniffing the air hungrily. Before Liam could even raise his stun rifle, Erin stood in front of him, her hands glowing faintly with that strange energy he had seen before. The beast took one look at her, hissed, and backed away into the jungle. Liam stared at her in amazement. She was trembling slightly, but her face was fierce and determined. "You don't have to protect me," Liam said softly, lowering his weapon. But Erin simply smiled at him, a soft, knowing smile, as if she understood something he didn't. Later that night, as they sat by the fire, Liam thought about everything he had learned so far. The bond between them wasn't just emotional. It was something ancient, something written deep into her very being. And now that it had been triggered, Erin's instincts told her to protect him just as much as he had protected her. Still, the bond worried him. How strong would it become? Would it ever fade? And most importantly, was it fair to her? He glanced at Erin, who sat beside him, humming a soft tune in her language. She looked peaceful, happy even. But Liam couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing at the edge of something he didn't fully understand. The next day, the tension only grew. As Liam packed their supplies, preparing to move toward a nearby human outpost, Erin became unusually restless. She hovered close, touching his arm again and again, making small, urgent sounds. Liam knelt down to her level. "We have to go. It's not safe here anymore," he said gently. Erin's eyes filled with worry. She touched her chest, then his. Then, pointed back toward the jungle, shaking her head. "You don't want to leave?" Liam guessed. She shook her head again, more firmly this time. Liam sighed. He understood her fear. The jungle was dangerous, and traveling would expose them to even more threats. But staying here wasn't an option either. They were too exposed, too vulnerable if another predator came. He rested his hand lightly on her shoulder. "Trust me, Aaron. I'll keep you safe." She hesitated, then slowly nodded, her body relaxing a little. As they set off through the dense trees, Liam noticed Aaron moving differently. She was more alert, more guarded. Her head turned at every sound. Her steps were quick and light, almost like a trained scout. It amazed Liam how adaptable she was. She wasn't just following him blindly. She was watching over him, warning him of hidden dangers he couldn't even sense. They walked for hours, moving carefully but steadily. Liam's muscles ached and his clothes were torn in places, but he didn't complain. Aaron stayed close, occasionally pointing out hidden paths or stopping him when she sensed something nearby. As night began to fall, they found shelter in a small cave hidden behind thick vines. It was dry, warm, and well hidden, perfect for resting. Liam built a small fire while Aaron carefully arranged stones around the entrance, creating a simple but clever warning system. If anything approached during the night, the stones would shift and make noise, alerting them. They ate a small meal together, sitting close by the fire. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. A silent understanding had grown between them, something beyond words. As Liam leaned back against the cave wall, Aaron moved closer, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. He smiled and closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of the fire and her presence, comforting him more than he cared to admit. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And though Liam still didn't fully understand the bond they shared, one thing was becoming clear. He needed her just as much as she needed him. The days that followed were filled with careful planning. Liam knew they couldn't stay in the cave for long. It was a good shelter, but it wouldn't protect them from the dangers of Varelia forever. They had to move, and they had to do it quickly. Aaron was still growing stronger, her bond to Liam growing deeper. The more time passed, the more he realized how much she relied on him, and how much he relied on her too. Every time she moved, every step she took, there was something about her that made him feel safer, even in this alien world. She was in tune with the environment in ways he could never be. He had started to trust her instincts just as much as his own. But there was still a problem. The creatures that roamed the jungle, the predators, the unknown dangers, were too much for them to handle on their own, and the outpost was still too far to reach by foot. They needed a safer way to get there, and fast. Liam sat on a flat rock near the mouth of the cave, staring at the map he had drawn of the terrain. His fingers traced the paths he had already covered, looking for the safest route. The outpost was about 2 days' walk away, but the jungle between them was thick and dangerous. They would need to cross a wide river and climb a rocky pass, all while avoiding the creatures that seemed to lurk at every corner. Aaron sat beside him, her violet eyes scanning the trees. She could sense things before Liam even heard the rustle of leaves. She was constantly alert, constantly aware. And though she didn't understand the map in front of her, she understood the urgency in Liam's movements. "We need to cross the river," Liam muttered to himself, his finger resting on the blue line that marked the waterway. "If we can make it across, there's a good chance we can find a safer route up the cliffs." Aaron looked at him curiously. She placed her hand on his, drawing his attention. "What is it?" Liam asked, smiling at her. She touched the map, pointing to the river, then pointed to herself and Liam. "Are you worried about the river?" he asked. She nodded slowly, her face serious. Then she made a gesture with her hands, mimicking the movement of a large current with wide arms. "You're worried about the current?" Liam asked. He wasn't sure if she was saying the water was dangerous or if it was something else, but he could see in her eyes that the idea of crossing made her uneasy. Liam thought for a moment. The river was wide and fast-moving. Even a strong, Swimmer could get swept away if they weren't careful. He needed a plan to keep them both safe. He sighed and leaned back against the cave wall. "We'll figure it out. I'll make sure we both make it through." Erin placed her hand on his chest again, her eyes full of determination. She understood. She trusted him. The next day, Liam worked to gather supplies. He knew they'd need extra food, some makeshift rafts and ropes to help cross the river safely. The forest offered plenty of resources: vines strong enough to hold their weight, sturdy branches for the raft's frame, and enough fruit to keep them nourished along the way. Erin helped where she could, using her knowledge of the jungle to find what they needed. She moved with ease, her body more graceful than Liam had ever seen. She wasn't just protecting him, she was helping him, guiding him through this wild world. By sunset, they had everything they needed. Liam was exhausted but determined. The river wasn't far. They could make the journey tomorrow, and if they were lucky, they'd reach the cliffs and the outpost without any further danger. That night, the air was thick with tension. Liam set up a small fire and sat beside Erin, watching the stars above. The jungle was quieter than usual. He could feel the weight of the silence, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. Erin sat close, her head resting lightly against his shoulder. Her soft warmth was comforting in the cool night air, and for a moment Liam allowed himself to relax. He closed his eyes and let his mind wander, imagining what life might be like when they finally reached safety. But just as quickly, a noise shattered the silence. A deep, low growl from the jungle. Liam's eyes snapped open. His body went tense. He grabbed his stun rifle and stood, motioning for Erin to stay behind him. The growl was joined by others. The sound of heavy footsteps in the brush. They weren't alone. Erin stood beside him, her eyes glowing faintly as she assessed the situation. She could sense what he couldn't. Liam knew there were creatures nearby, but Erin's heightened senses picked up on something even worse. "They're closing in," Liam muttered. Erin reached for his arm, pulling him back into the shadows of the cave. She gestured for him to stay quiet. Liam obeyed. He moved silently, crouching low to the ground. The sounds from the jungle were growing louder now, and he knew they had little time. The predators were near, but they hadn't spotted them yet. He could hear the rustle of leaves, the cracking of branches, and the heavy breathing of whatever was lurking in the darkness. But Erin's instincts were sharp. She knew exactly where to hide. They crouched behind a large boulder, Liam's heart racing as he gripped the rifle tightly. Erin, however, was calm. Her eyes flickered around the cave entrance, watching for any signs of movement. The tension was thick as they waited in silence. Suddenly, the creatures appeared. Massive, dark, shapes moving through the jungle. There were 3 of them, each the size of a large bear with long claws and terrifying teeth. They sniffed the air, clearly searching for something. Liam's pulse quickened. They were close. He tightened his grip on the rifle, ready to protect Erin no matter what. The jungle was silent now, except for the distant howls and the rustling of the trees. Liam and Erin crouched behind the large boulder, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. His heart was pounding in his chest, every muscle tensed, ready to react at a moment's notice. The 3 creatures in front of them were massive. Their bodies were covered in thick, dark scales, their eyes gleaming like bright yellow orbs in the darkness. They sniffed the air, their movements slow and methodical as they hunted for their prey. It was clear they were searching for something, or someone, and Liam had no doubt that they would find it soon if they weren't careful. Erin stood beside him, her body radiating with that familiar soft glow. She seemed unaffected by the danger, her gaze steady, watching the creatures with a calm that Liam found both reassuring and unsettling. There was something about her, something beyond what he could understand, that made her a force to be reckoned with. But even with all her strength, she couldn't fight them alone. They needed a plan, and fast. Liam glanced at the rifle in his hand, his fingers tightening around the grip. The weapon was useful, but he knew it wouldn't be enough against 3 of these predators. And yet, it was their only option. He had to act quickly. The creatures were getting closer, their heavy feet stomping against the ground as they searched the area. The scent of Aaron's energy, and possibly their shared bond, had drawn them in. The beasts weren't just hunting for food, they were hunting for something more. Liam swallowed hard, trying to steady his breath. He looked at Aaron, whose eyes met his with a calm, knowing gaze. She was aware of the danger, but she was also aware of something else. She reached out and gently touched Liam's arm, her fingers warm against his skin. He didn't need words to understand what she was telling him. She was ready. Liam nodded. He could feel her resolve. She was more than capable of defending herself, and perhaps even more than capable of protecting them both. But they still needed to work together. He slowly lifted the rifle and aimed it at the ground near the creatures, making sure to miss them by several feet. A warning shot would keep them at bay for a little while longer. It was risky, but it was the only choice they had. With one deep breath, Liam pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the jungle like thunder, and the creatures froze, their bodies tense. For a moment they hesitated, as if trying to decide whether to advance or retreat. Their eyes shifted toward Liam and Aaron, clearly aware of their presence. The beasts growled low, their yellow eyes narrowing. They weren't afraid. They were calculating. But this was the opening they needed. Aaron stepped forward, her hand raised in the air. Her body shone with that faint ethereal glow, and for a moment Liam could have sworn the very air around them seemed to hum with energy. He stepped back slightly, unsure of what she was about to do, but trusting her completely. The creatures looked at her, and for the first time they seemed unsure. They backed away a few steps, their growls growing softer. Liam watched, amazed, as Aaron raised her other hand and extended it toward them. The creatures flinched, their bodies stiffening, their eyes wide. It was as if they could feel something, far stronger than fear, something ancient and undeniable. And for the first time, Liam realized that Aaron wasn't just using her physical strength. She was drawing on something far deeper, something within her very being that made her a force the creatures could not challenge. The creatures slowly backed away, their growls fading as they turned and disappeared into the jungle. They left without another sound, vanishing into the shadows. Liam exhaled deeply, his heart still racing. The danger had passed, but he couldn't shake the feeling of awe that had settled over him. Aaron had done something to drive them away, something he couldn't explain. Her bond to him and perhaps to this planet was far more than he had realized. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a protector. Aaron turned to him, her eyes filled with a quiet, knowing calm. She had handled the situation with ease, as if she had done this countless times before. "Thank you," Liam said quietly, his voice filled with gratitude. He couldn't have done it without her. Aaron smiled, her face softening. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. The bond between them was stronger than words. They stayed still for a moment, the tension from the encounter slowly melting away. The jungle around them was eerily quiet now, the danger having passed. But the journey was far from over. They still had to reach the outpost, and there were still challenges ahead. Liam looked up at the sky, feeling the weight of their situation. He had never imagined he would be in this position. Not in a million years. But now, with Aaron by his side, he realized he wasn't just surviving. He was part of something much bigger. The bond they shared was not just about survival. It was about connection, trust, and something deeper that he couldn't fully explain yet. He knew one thing for certain, though. They would face whatever came next, together.